Dear viewers, welcome to this YouTube channel. In this chapter, there will be an explanation of prediction of the career, 2, continuing from the previous episode, as follows. For convenience in this matter, general careers that are popular will be used. Afterward, each planet can be included accordingly for predicting the career possibilities as follows. 1. Doctor. The person that can become a doctor has to be good at studying and also studies hard. She has to read a lot of books and knows a lot of information. Furthermore, the person has to possess good communication in English as well as being a thorough person. Mercury, 4, plus the person must be very diligent since study and work usually occurs every day for almost the entire life. Mars, 3, so at least the career requires the planet 4 and 3 primarily. In case the specialization in this career is of interest, other planets may be required as well. For instance, a surgical doctor should have Venus, 6. Art, imagination, and beauty. A doctor who has a good moral should have the planet 5. In case it requires hard work, tolerance, thoroughness, the planet 7 must be presentable, etc. 2. Engineer, requires Mars, 3, first. Craftsmanship, logic, and reasoning, secondly. Mercury, 4, is required since being pretty good at studying should be recommended. Academical knowledge and information have to be encouraged. Other planets would be a supplement as in the case of doctor career. 3. Architect, requires Venus, 6, first. Art, imagination, and beauty, secondly, it requires Mercury, 4. Literature, writing, and thoroughness. Lastly, it requires Mars, 3. Craftsmanship and logic, these characteristics are somewhat required as well since they may become helpful in creating structural plans and constructions. 4. Painting requires Venus, 6, first. Art, imagination, dreams, and beauty, secondly, it would require Rahu, 8, indulgence. There is an example of a certain well-known Thai painter. Mercury, 4, was neutral in Mahabharata and therefore it is not required, although it would be good to have. This is because the work details would be improved. 5. Artist, requires Venus, 6, first. Art, imagination, and dreams, for singing Mercury, 4, has to be included. For poet, writer, composing requires Mercury, 4, first. Literature, information, speaking, secondly, it would require Venus, 6. Art and imagination, if it is scientific literature, Mars, 3, has to be included. Logic, reasoning, and craftsmanship. 6. Celebrity and actor-actress, this requires art and imagination primarily. Venus, 6, plus trickery and faking, Rahu, 8. Both of them must be equal. Therefore, the person that possesses the art of acting must have Venus, 6, and Rahu, 8, primarily. Further requirements for the dignities are needed to achieve fame and popularity. The required dignities are exaltation, pre-exaltation, post-exaltation. Achieved by popularity, appearance or accomplishments, etc. Moreover, the moon, 2, that is exaltation, pre-exaltation, or post-exaltation dignified would enhance the mannerism to become even more charming. On the other hand, Rahu, 8, that is powerful, 8, such as being exaltation or Mahachakra dignified, will make the native become tricky or indulged in something heavily. Other planets must, therefore, be considered as well to determine if the native would become a popular celebrity or a true swindler. 7. Salesman, broker, firstly, it would require good speech, Mercury, 4, and secondly the art of speaking would be required. Venus, 6. The moon, 2. Mannerism and charm would also get along well with these characteristics. The Sun, 1, on the other hand, should not be powerful or is Tonu said since it would make the native aloof and hard to please others. However, in case the Sun, 1, is powerful, it is recommended to become a broker for something that does not require dealing with people directly, such as cars, houses, and lands. Although the positive sides of the Sun, 1, such as being well-mannered and trustworthy, are also helpful. 8. Businessman and merchant. This would require being shrewd and sophisticated as well as being bold and risk-taking enough to manage a business. Rahu, 8, plus thoroughness, profound, detail-oriented, handling documentations as well as being able to negotiate business. Mercury, 4, plus having a good logic, reasoning, being bold and quick-minded. Mars, 3, are all recommended. Moreover, Saturn, 7, will enhance the ability to consider and ponder. Notice that if Saturn, 7, is too powerful, it may cause the native to become too slow in responding. More importantly, Jupiter, 5, that is too positive or is Tonu said will make the native become virtuous and will, therefore, conduct business in a straightforward manner which may not be so good. The exception would be for utilizing the credibility of the native to conduct honest business. 9. Manager. This requires being shrewd and sophisticated as well as the ability to handle situations. Rahu, 8. Furthermore, thoroughness and utilizing information and documents for making decisions are required. Mercury, 4. Logic, reasoning as well as being bold and quick-minded are also good additions. Mars, 3. If Saturn, 7, is presentable, it would enhance the consideration. But if 7 is too powerful, it would make the native slow. Jupiter, 5, virtues, optimism, sympathy, should also be powerful. This would be different from the requirements of a businessman and merchant, since it would not require as much competition. It would instead require virtues in ruling such as being just. 10. State officer, official, and employee, would require ascendant-related Jupiter, 5, since it would make the seniors or supervisors sympathetic towards the native. Jupiter, 5, that is positive implies that the supervisors will have enough power, while negative Jupiter, 5, implies that the supervisors will be powerless to help. If Jupiter, 5, is not ascendant-related, no matter how positive it is, the supervisors will not be sympathetic towards the native. Especially when it is necessary. No matter how good they work, it will not be satisfactory. Therefore, it is recommended to work independently and not rely on others too much. Consider the culture of the community as another factor. To figure out how good the native is at his field of work, other planets would have to be in consideration too, according to the Predicting the Career chapter. 11. Lawyer. This requires shrewdness and being sophisticated, which is Rahu, 8, as a primary basis. Additionally, preferring literature and negotiation as well as being careful and communicative is preferred. Mercury, 4. Logic, reasoning, and hard to be tricked. Mars, 3, is also required. Jupiter, 5, on the other hand, should not be too powerful and is not Tonu said, since the virtues will not be too high. Otherwise, the native will become soft-hearted and kind, which might not lead to winning the lawsuit cases. In case Saturn, 7, is presented, it will make the native more considerate. Venus, 6, can make the native display artful speeches. Just a compliment. 12. Judge. This would require logic and reasoning. Mars, 3, plus virtues and merciful as well as being just. Jupiter, 5, using reasons before empathy, since it will not lead to biased verdicts. Plus detail-oriented, profound, and preferred textbooks and information. Mercury, 4, plus sophisticated and shrewd. Rahu, 8, if Saturn, 7, is conjoined, it will also make the native more considerate. As a complement, observations, lawyers that have 8 more powerful than 5 will not make good judges since they will tend to be somewhat tricky. Meanwhile, judges that have 5 more powerful than 8 will not make good lawyers since they will not tend to be shrewd and sophisticated. They will also be too soft-hearted and merciful. 13. Policeman. This requires courage and the will to fight as well as reasons to solve each case. Mars, 3, has to be the primary planet plus shrewdness and being sophisticated is also required. Rahu, 8, otherwise, they will not be able to arrest criminals. Additionally, thoroughness and being observation, as well as preference for law textbooks, is adequately required. Mercury, 4, if Jupiter, 5, is ascendant related, it will make the native become a virtuous and merciful policeman. The supervisors will also be sympathetic and helpful, and it will encourage possible advancements. Policemen in the finance department, medical department, and entertainment department are not included. 14. Soldier. This requires bravery and fighting spirits, Mars, 3, primarily since they have to obey orders. Other matters are not as necessary. However, to become a military advisor it would require thoroughness and well-planning. Mercury, 4, furthermore, tolerance and careful consideration are needed. Saturn, 7, shrewdness comes next. Rahu, 8, to become successful in this career other planets have to be taken into account as well according to the general principles. 15. Accountant and banker. This would require thoroughness, observant in details and pieces of information primarily. Mercury, 4, secondly, it would require management in finance and human resources, Rahu, 8, as well as reasoning, logic and analyzing the information, Mars, 3, other planets will only improve these traits. If Rahu, 8, is exaltation, Mahachakra dignified and is ascendant related, it will become more powerful than Mercury, 4. Therefore, caution should be taken since there might be a risk of a huge fraud in the future. 16. A chef or a professional cook has to be a detailed, thorough and punctilious person, Mercury, 4, plus having decorative imagination and proficiency as well as being aesthete. Venus, 6, furthermore, the diligence in making food and finding new receipts are required. Mars, 3, lastly, the fortitude for hard labor with only a few breaks should also be required. Saturn, 7. 17. Loan shark, a popular career that requires Rahu, 8, primarily for being shrewd and perhaps tricky if the planet is powerful and the native is bold as well as being a risk-taker. Additionally, Jupiter, 5, should be slightly weaker than Rahu, 8, such as being positive but not ascendant-related or being negative and is ascendant-related. More importantly, Jupiter, 5, should not be tonused since it will make the native becomes good-hearted, virtuous, soft-hearted, sympathetic and too optimistic. These traits may not be useful in collecting debts and a lot of debts could end up being uncollected. There are mainly 2 planets only, but if Mercury, 4, is positive, it would be even better since the native will be thorough and full of pieces of information. Therefore, the native will be able to do accounting. Venus, 6, would also be a welcome addition since it would cooperate with Mercury, 4, so that the native becomes good at rhetoric. Additionally, Saturn, 7, will enhance the ability to consider carefully. However, the Sun, 1, that is related to the ascendant, no matter positive or negative or tonused will make the native become arrogant and will dislike losing face. This would not encourage collecting debts. Therefore, it would not be suitable for being a loan shark. although it would still work out in case the business is conducted by being standing behind or with official contracts so that it would not require face-to-face communication. If it is conducted on a smaller scale, guaranteed properties should be presented to prevent a permanent loss. Conclusion of predicting the career. Consider each planet first by starting at the most prominent ones in the natal chart accordingly. Auspicious and inauspicious things as well as viable career options should be considered first. Then the combinations of multiple planets starting from the most dominant planets have to be considered next. Afterward, other less important planets can be combined to predict possible outcomes for each career path according to the general principles. Please stay tuned for the upcoming episodes.